The moment my mother said, "We can't come to your wedding, your sister needs us more," something inside my chest cracked so loudly I swear I could hear it. My wedding was in 3 weeks. The venue was booked. The dress was hanging in my closet. But to them, it didn't matter. Because my sister had just announced her engagement, and suddenly my entire life was pushed aside like it meant nothing. They didn't know this yet, but that phone call changed everything. Because if they thought they could miss my wedding and walk away guilt-free, they were about to be very, very wrong. Before we start, make sure you subscribe and stay until the end, because what happened next left my entire family completely stunned. My name is Amelia. I'm 28 years old. And until that moment, I honestly believed my parents loved my sister and me equally. Growing up, my younger sister Lily was always the center of attention. She was loud, charming, the kind of person who could walk into a room and immediately make everyone laugh. I was different, quiet, responsible, the one who handled things, the one who never caused problems. If Lily forgot to do something, I fixed it. If Lily made a mess, I cleaned it. If Lily cried, my parents ran to comfort her. And I told myself that was normal, that every family had roles. But I never realized how deep that favoritism actually went until the day I got engaged. My fiancé, Daniel, proposed on a quiet cliffside during a vacation in Italy. Just the two of us, overlooking the rolling hills of Tuscany. When he opened that little velvet box, I burst into tears before he even finished the question. It was perfect. And when we came home, I couldn't wait to tell my parents. My mom hugged me. My dad shook Daniel's hand. They smiled, congratulated us, and for a moment I thought, finally, this was my turn to be celebrated. Daniel and I had been saving for years, and we decided to do something bold. Instead of a traditional wedding back home, we rented a stunning villa in Tuscany. An $8 million estate surrounded by vineyards, golden sunsets, and those dreamy stone terraces you only see in movies. It was going to be intimate, beautiful, magical. My parents sounded excited when I told them. "We've always wanted to go to Italy," my mom laughed. I believed her. 4 months, I planned everything. The flowers, the dinner under the olive trees, the string quartet playing while the sun set over the hills. Every detail felt like a dream finally coming true. Then 3 weeks before the wedding, Lily announced her engagement. At first, I was happy for her. Truly. But something about her smile that night felt strange. Too smug. Too calculated. She clinked her glass at dinner and said, "Actually, we're thinking about having the wedding really soon. Like, next month." I froze. My wedding was in 3 weeks. My dad frowned. "That's fast, honey." Lily shrugged dramatically. "Well, when you know, you know." Then she looked straight at my mom and said the words that made my stomach drop. "I just really need my family there." The room went quiet. My mom glanced at me for half a second, then back at Lily. And that's when the slow, sick realization began creeping into my chest. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice sounded careful. Too careful. "Amelia, sweetie, we've been thinking." My grip tightened around the phone. "What about?" A pause. Then the words that shattered everything. "We might not be able to make it to Tuscany." I felt the air leave my lungs. "What do you mean, you can't make it?" "Well," she sighed softly, "Lily's wedding will probably be around the same time, and she really needs us here to help plan everything." I stared at the wall in silence. "You're choosing her wedding over mine?" "It's not like that," she insisted quickly. "You're already in Italy. Everything's planned. Lily needs support." Support. The word felt like a slap. "So you're skipping your daughter's wedding," I whispered. "Don't make this dramatic, Amelia." That sentence broke something inside me. I hung up before she could say anything else. I sat on the floor of my apartment for almost an hour, staring at nothing. All those years. All those moments I told myself I was imagining the favoritism. I wasn't. My parents had just proven it. Daniel eventually found me there. Tears dried on my cheeks. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I looked up at him and said the words that tasted like heartbreak. "They're not coming." He sat beside me, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. And after a long silence, I said something that even surprised myself. They think my wedding doesn't matter. Daniel looked at me carefully. What are you thinking? I wiped my face slowly, and for the first time that night, a small, cold smile appeared. They want to miss my wedding? I exhaled softly. Fine. Then I looked straight at him. But when they find out what they missed, my voice dropped to a whisper. They're going to regret it for the rest of their lives. And that's when the plan started forming. For the first 2 days after that call, I barely spoke. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I was realizing something painful. Something that had been true my entire life. I had always been the backup daughter. The reliable one. The quiet one. The one who would understand. And my parents had gotten very comfortable with that. But this time, I wasn't going to understand. Daniel watched me carefully while I sat at the kitchen table scrolling through the wedding plans on my laptop. The villa in Tuscany. The guest list. The sunset ceremony on the terrace. Everything was already perfect. Except one thing. My family wasn't coming. At least, that's what they thought. Daniel finally asked softly, "Are you still sure you want to go through with it?" I looked up at him. More than ever. Because the truth was, I wasn't canceling anything. If my parents wanted to skip my wedding for Lily's last-minute drama, that was their choice. But I wasn't going to beg them anymore. Instead, I made one quiet decision. I stopped reminding them. No more calls about flight details. No more updates about the ceremony. No more conversations about Italy. If they wanted to pretend my wedding wasn't happening, I would let them. 3 weeks later, Daniel and I were standing on the terrace of that breathtaking Tuscany villa. Golden sunlight poured across the vineyards. The air smelled like olive trees and warm summer wind. A long dinner table stretched across the garden, glowing with candles and flowers. And surrounding us were the people who actually showed up. Our closest friends. Daniel's parents. My cousins who flew halfway across the world just to be there. But the seats meant for my parents were empty. For a moment, right before the ceremony started, I felt that familiar ache in my chest. 28 years of wanting their approval. 28 years of trying to be enough. Then Daniel squeezed my hand. "You ready?" he whispered. I took a deep breath. And suddenly I realized something. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was free. So when the music started and I walked down that stone aisle under the glowing sunset, I didn't look at the empty chairs. I looked straight at the man who chose me every single day. And I smiled. We said our vows as the sky turned pink and gold over the hills of Tuscany. The wind gently lifted my veil. Everyone around us was crying and laughing at the same time. It was the most beautiful moment of my life. And my parents weren't there to see it. But that wasn't the revenge. The real moment came 3 days later. I posted the photos. Not just one or two. Hundreds. The ceremony. The villa. The candlelit dinner under the stars. The kiss at sunset. The fireworks Daniel had secretly arranged over the vineyards. And at the very end, one photo of us standing on the terrace with the caption, "Best day of my life. Married my soulmate in Tuscany. Grateful for everyone who showed up." Within minutes, my phone started exploding. Friends. Relatives. Distant family members. "Wait. You got married. What do you mean your parents weren't there?" Then my mom called. I stared at the phone for a long moment before answering. Her voice was shaking. "Amelia, why didn't you tell us the wedding was still happening?" I let out a slow breath. "I did." Silence. "You said you couldn't come," I continued calmly. "So I respected your decision." My dad grabbed the phone next. "You should have postponed it." I almost laughed. "For what?" I asked quietly. "So Lily could have another moment?" Neither of them had an answer. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small during that silence. I felt powerful, because they had finally seen the truth. They missed their daughter's wedding, not because they couldn't be there, but because they chose not to. And that's something they'll have to live with forever. Meanwhile, I was sitting on a terrace in Tuscany, watching the sunset with my husband, realizing something beautiful. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't hurting the people who betrayed you. It's building a life so happy, they can't believe they lost their place in it. And trust me, The view from that villa was unforgettable. If you stayed with me until the end, make sure you subscribe, because stories like this remind us all that sometimes the people who underestimate you the most are the ones who end up the most shocked.